Welcome back. Like a will-o'-the-wisp, we follow faint lights into the paranormal, the spiritual, and the haunted. We're going to start today with some videos about the app Randonautica. Perhaps you've heard of this app, and maybe not for the best of reasons. The app launched in 2020, and not long after, a group of people who were using the app and had randomly generated their destination, they found themselves by the water in Seattle, and on the rocks they found a rather suspicious-looking suitcase. After assessing the suitcase from the outside, perhaps some gentle prods, and smelling quite a foul odor, they decided to call the cops. When the cops arrived, they had confirmed that there were the bodies of 2 deceased people inside the suitcase. This case went viral, and a lot of people labeled this app to be a fear finder of sorts. They would set their intention to be something scary or something creepy, and although this was likely just a shocking coincidence that the app led them to this spot where this was found, it really did make people unsettled and a little bit wary of the app. Perhaps it did have something that had bad intentions wired into it, or if they set their intention to be something that was scary or unexpected, then perhaps they might find something along the same lines as that group of people did. Thankfully, we haven't heard of any that have ended in such a devastating find, but there are some pretty strange encounters that have been had when people are using the app Randonautica. So we're going to listen to a few now.
I went randonauting at like 3 a.m. with my best friend last night, and we were driving all around town because we were staying in a hotel vacation. So we went randonauting. Specifically, when we were setting our intentions, we set it to missing because like that's creepy, but that's not like scary, deadly, like murder or anything like that. So better than some of the things we could have like used as our intention. The first place it took us to is this like line of buildings, I would say, all along a wall, and we were just, it looked pretty normal. There were 2 white vans out in the parking lot. That was literally all there was. 2 white vans, and then we were driving by and we saw this building, and the building like just didn't look real. It looked auto-generated. It looked like a cartoon. It was so weird. I got it on video, so I will show that in my full-length vlog. I really, really badly wanted to get out and go look at like the building up close because it was just like really intriguing me for some reason. So I did want to get out, but my friend Lucius was like, no, we probably shouldn't do that. And I was like, okay, valid. After that, we did switch locations because we wanted to like go see one more place, and so we did the intention missing again, and we were sent to a second place. In the second place, we were taken to a line of houses, and when I tell you these are the oddest houses I've ever seen, they might have been apartments, but they didn't look like it. They were like really, really tall houses, but they were super, super skinny. They were all touching each other and like lined up, and then they were all like 5 stories high. They were the weirdest apartments I've ever seen. Just like the way that they looked on the outside like weirded me out. I'll show you guys like the full-length video eventually, but they were weird. I feel like I'm saying literally nothing, but the like scariest part was the fact that it was 3 a.m. and there were 0 cars around at all. Like I've never seen such a lack of cars in my entire life. There were no cars anywhere except for when we were like on the highway, but anywhere else like empty. Every single road empty, like nobody in parking spots. It was so creepy. Lastly, we drove by this like parking garage thing, like the really tall ones, like the parking structures that they have at hospitals and stuff, and we drove by one of those and it was completely empty from the bottom to the top, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen because just imagine lights in a parking lot building and nobody there.
Randonautica is scary as hell, and this is why. So if you don't know what the app is, basically you are supposed to think of something like and have an intent of something, and it gives you random coordinates to that specific thing. And so basically, like, a lot of people think of like different colors or like different like types of like nature, like water and stuff like that. So my friends in the car, imagine there's like 6 of us, right? They're all thinking about fire. And my dumbass, the one that's holding the phone with the coordinates, is thinking of something completely different. And my friends did not know this until I told them later because I didn't want to freak them out. And like my friends aren't like really like the type of people like that like scary things, and so I shouldn't have done this, but I was thinking of which, and you're never gonna believe what happened. and I don't have any time, but like for part 2. So basically, I'm walking to the woods, right? And it is like barbed wired, and like there's an entrance, but like it's blocked off by like all these like wood planks because there's a reason why people don't want you to go in there, right? So basically, I look back, I don't see any of my friends because I don't know, for some odd reason they just didn't want to follow me. So here I am walking back to our car, and I see them talking to a person, and like at first I was like, oh crap, somebody's like upset because we're here and it's 11:30 at night, right? Wrong. There was a lady and she was like taking out trash and stuff, and basically she was actually really nice. And like as we started talking to her and stuff, like we found out that she's a crypt. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically another word for a witch that likes to mess with things that are dead. They're very much like a more like nature type of witch, but they still mess with dead things like animals. Alright, part 3 of my Randonautica story that happened. So basically, we're talking to this lady, right? And we found out that she's a crypt and all this stuff. And my friends don't know what that is. And so I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, I was thinking of a witch and this happened. So basically, a lot of witches like have like really good like intentions, and like they have a like almost like things that they should say to people or things that they should lead people to do, right? So like this lady is telling us like we shouldn't go back in those woods, and like she's the only person that ever goes back there. Interesting, right? Because we got those coordinates to go back there, and she's the only person that goes back there. And why would a person be taking out trash at 11:30 just randomly, right? But this is not even the scariest part of the story, and you're about to hear what it is, okay? So we're talking to this lady, and she's like, don't go back there, like you don't want to go back there. And like she's telling us like she's putting like this like deer head back together and like all of this stuff. And then she tells us that we need to go. So while we're talking to this lady, she looks at us and she's like, you know, I think that y'all should go to Goatman's. And if you have no idea what Goatman's is, I'm about to give you a little backstory. So basically, this is what Goatman's Bridge looks like at night. It's creepy, right? Warning, this is disturbing, so if you don't want to hear it, go away. So basically, I think it was like in the 1940s or 50s, and the KKK basically lynched a goat farmer on this bridge. And honestly, the horror stories about the place are honestly terrifying. Some people claim like they see like a man that almost looks like half man, half goat. And some people also claim that there is like a mother that is looking for a child because, long story short, they were both kidnapped and they never found each other and they were never found. So my friends think about it and we say, sure, why don't we go? And this is when it gets bad. Like bad. So basically, we were dumb and we decided to go to Goatman's because why not? And we pull up there, and like they have this like little like small little parking lot where you can park before you go on the bridge. And there was like several cars there because like a lot of people like to go there to like not do things that I can't say on here, but people go there to go do those certain things, right? So we're pulling up and like we have like a little dog with us. The dog did not come, by the way. The dog stayed in the car with 2 other girls that were scared. So, and we pull up and these ladies are doing this thing called a spirit box in their car, and they ask us to come over to them because they want to see our dog. So we start talking to these ladies, right? And they tell us that they've been talking to a lot of spirits all night and like they know their names. So yeah, this was before we walked onto the bridge. So as we're going through the trail and stuff, like we find this phone and there's nobody there. Part 6. So basically, we are on the bridge and there's like pentagrams everywhere and there's like all these like satanic signs like everywhere on this bridge. So I was like, having an uneasy feeling. We were the only ones there on the bridge. I don't know where anybody else was. There was a lot of cars in the parking lot, right? So we're on this bridge and we find this phone. And the phone like wouldn't turn on, and we decided, okay, let's grab it before anybody else does and let's try to find the owner. So we're walking down the trail just trying to see if there's anybody nearby. There's nobody. So we were like, okay, let's just go back to the car, and this is, boring. Like, there's nothing else for us to do. Wrong. The night gets worse. So we take the phone back to the car, and we decide to head to Buc-ee's because we're in Texas, and it's like 1 o'clock a.m., right? And so as we're heading to Buc-ee's, the phone turns on, finally, after we left the bridge, and the phone gets a text message. And so basically the phone turns on and this girl named Lizzy starts texting the phone. Sadly, we couldn't call this girl, we couldn't text her back because we didn't know the passcode to the phone. But the text messages freaked us out. So the person was like texting this other person, whoever owns this phone, hey, I'm here to come pick you up, and I just want you to know that you can have a fun time, and I hope you enjoy yourself. So my friend starts like freaking out and is like, we need to go back. And then the girls are like, no, we can't. Like, what if it's like a murderer and all this stuff? And I'm thinking to myself, what if this girl like got kidnapped? Like, what if she was like on like a date and got kidnapped? If you don't know, Goatman is also known for sex trafficking. So I'm like, no, we have to go back and we have to go meet this girl that's texting her. So then the girl texts back, hey, I'm gonna go on the bridge and I'll wait for you there. So then we freak out and we go back. This is when it gets. So basically, we get there and we are looking for this girl's friends. So we try to like run towards the bridge. We go into a group because honestly, we have no idea if this is actually this girl that's saying this or if it's just like, like a trap. Because a trap that people do is they leave phones at places and they kidnap the people that come and go to the location that they tell them to go to. This is true. I'm not making this up. So we get into a group and we go there and basically we see these 3 people sitting on the bridge and we ask them if they are Lizzy or like if they know a girl named Lizzy. And basically the guy was like, I'm Lizzy. Thanks to you, jerk. But basically they did not know where she went, but they saw a random girl sitting on the bridge and then they said that she went into the woods. So then we were freaking out because we thought, oh my god, what if she's just in the woods looking everywhere for her friend and she will never find her? Because her friend does not have her phone. So we asked them what their 3 cars were and they told us what their cars were and basically we saw Lizzy's car. So we run. Alright, last part, I think. Here we go. So basically me and my friend, we are hauling ass to this person's car, right? And like we're on the phone with the people that are in our car just because, we want people with a getaway car just in case. And basically, we like tell them like they need to honk, they need to wave her down because she cannot leave. Because this girl was leaving. And so we finally got her to stop the car. And we went up to her car. I felt so bad because we like probably scared the shit out of her. But we got to her car and we were like, hey, are you Lizzy? We found Lizzy. Long story short, she told us that her friend was with a group of friends tonight, including this girl's ex. And so she wasn't really happy with her. So that's why she didn't come with them. Which I understand is kind of low, but you do you. And so she tells us that her and her friends were not doing the best things in these woods. And she hasn't been able to get in touch with anybody in there. But basically, by the end of the night, she found her friend, and thanks to us, she also had her... Alright, so here's the conclusion. So basically, we gave her the phone, and she eventually found her friend at a different park, and basically she texted me because I gave her my phone number. She told me that everything was okay, and we were all happy. But here is my reasoning on why I don't think that you should do Randonautica. The app itself, yeah, it's fun. And like the night before this night, we didn't see anything crazy, right? But if you really think and you really have the right intent, you will see what you are looking for. Like, I am not kidding. And for the rest of the night, a lot of paranormal things happened. And some of them I'm not going to say because I don't want to bore y'all anymore with a long story, but a lot of things happen, and if you want to know about them, let me know. I have a lot of stories like this. I have a lot of true things that happened in my life, and they're really interesting, so if you want more story times, let me know. But if you're going to do the app Randonautica, use it with caution, and just be safe. That's all. And if you want more story times, give me a follow and a like.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Ray, and I'm back with an addition to the story time. So a lot of y'all probably saw my video about the Randonautica Goatman's Bridge situation that happened, right? So I watched a BuzzFeed Unsolved video about it because people were telling me to watch it. And so, I did and everything, and, one of, the running jokes in the show is that there's supposedly a ghost named Steve, and he supposedly, is a ghost at the bridge, right? So, the other day, 2 days ago, me and my friend went to go get his hair dyed, and my boyfriend calls me, and he's like, hey, did you just, try to call me? And I was like, no, why? And he said, a person used my caller ID, literally when he looked at his phone, it said my name, and he said, hello, this is Steve. No response, nothing else, just hello, this is Steve, and, a demonic voice. I don't know if this ghost has chased me, but if that's correct, I'm scared. So yeah, now I don't know what to do.
She don't even turn around and look at me. All I hear her say is, don't get out. I said, shit, you ain't gonna tell me twice for lock that motherfucker. This ain't no scary movie. I ain't investigating shit, bitch. Let me tell you motherfuckers something about Randonautica. Think that shit a game if you want to. That motherfucker ain't playing no games with you. On God. I met this girl on like Tinder or something like that. One of them dating apps. And for our date, we decided we gonna go Randonautica. Randonautica? Is that a fucking word? Either way, we went Randonautica. We went to go Randonautica. Just to make sure neither one of us was a serial killer, we met at McDonald's, so we wasn't like giving each other addresses and all that. We meet at McDonald's. She get out of her car. I get out of mine. I hug her. I open the door for her. She get in. She get into my car and we giggling and shit like, okay, what we gonna type in there first? If I'm not mistaken, because I haven't been on there since I did it the last time, and that was the last time. If I'm not mistaken, they have a choice of you searching something vague and then something specific. That whole time we was doing it, we was doing vague shit. But with vague, you get vague stuff. So we'd search something like a skeleton or something like that, trying to see we see something spooky, and it would take us to somebody's house that had a skeleton like decorated on like their porch and shit like that. It's not far-fetched that happened because I was living in Arizona, so a lot of people have like Dia de los Muertos like decorations around their house all times of the year type shit. So it was like, oh, that's interesting. It took us to a skeleton. At this point, we've been driving for hours. We done did like 7 or 10 of them, and they was all vague. So it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting bored, so I think she might be getting bored. So I'm like, all right, time to get specific. And I seen like her eyes widen up, like, oh yeah, let's do it. So I'm thinking I got the green light. I'm like, oh, let's get this shit on. So I searched death, and I put it in specific. Man, on God in heaven, that shit took us to the parking lot of a hospital. On God. Now, okay. That ain't nothing crazy. I ain't got to the crazy part yet. The girl that I was with is Mexican. I'm obviously very black, so we had been saying racist jokes to each other the whole time just because we thought it was funny. It was a joke. I'm like, I'm finna put racist in the specific section, and she busts all laughing like, yeah, do that shit. So I type in racist, and we driving, right? We driving for like probably like 30 minutes because we had driven like pretty much 30 minutes from where we met at. We driving, we go past the McDonald's. We go down this street. Each time I made a turn, she would look over at me like, where are you going? Like she was confused on where I was going. We was like 5 minutes from my destination, and she just like kept like going like this in her seat, her face said, what you doing? 2 minutes left in the ride, and I look over at her, I'm like, you straight? At this point, the energy in the car had like shifted. Like at first it was like bubbly, we listened to music type shit. At this point, she was silent. She wasn't singing along none of the songs. And at this point, I had stopped playing music. Man, we pull up to the spot, and I thought she seen a ghost. I park, and she immediately gets out, like open the door up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is weird. She opened her door real quick, but she didn't get out quick. She just got out like kind of like slow, and she was about to like grab the door so she can get out and like close it. I grabbed the handle of my door and I opened it. Like you can hear the pop to the door opening. She don't even turn around and look at me. All I hear her say is, don't get out. I said, shit, you ain't gonna tell me twice for lock that motherfucker. This ain't no scary movie. I ain't investigating shit, bitch. I close back and lock my door, and then I look over and some people coming out of the house, and she still don't turn around to me. Like I said, she Mexican, so she's speaking in Spanish to the people coming out of the house. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck going on. Finally, everybody get quiet, and she turn around and say, how do you know where I live at? I said, bitch, on God in heaven, you watch me type that shit into Randonautica. I don't know where you live at. Also, at this point, I'm not even paying attention to what the people in the background doing. I wish I was, though. Because soon as I said, you just watch me type that into Randonautica, she said, you need to go now. Soon as she said now, I seen about 5 of them motherfuckers, bald, tattoos, no shirt on, come out of that bitch strapped. Man, she closed that door. That foot was on the motherfucking pedal, my nigga. Out of her. Boy, I ain't never drove and kept my head down so bad. They ain't shoot, but I had that head down in case they did, motherfucker. Long story short, she texted me later that night. Like, we talking about, like, what the fuck happened? I'm trying to figure out what happened. Long story short, she tell me that her family hates black people and she was supposed to be with a friend. Like, they didn't even know she was with a dude. Like, she was supposed to be with a friend. So when they seen me in the car with her, they tweaked out, like, type shit. That was the last time I talked to her, and that was the last time I used Randonautica. That shit ain't no game, boy.
So I'm seeing everyone talk about Randonautica stories again, and I'd love to share mine. Okay, to set the scene, what is it, 2020. Randonautica is all the rage. Everyone's doing it. I haven't really done it since because I choose peace. If you don't know what Randonautica is, look it up. It's an app. Come to think of it, it kind of gave Ouija board vibes, which I don't fuck with that at all. I was just stupid and didn't really use my brain when I was 16. Okay, so I love creepy shit. I love scary movies. I love that stuff to a limit. I just didn't really have a limit when I was younger. So I'm with one of my friends. I'm like, ooh, we're gonna be spooky. Like, what should we set our intention to? And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something weird. I think we did dying or death or blood. So weird. I wanted to be creeped out. So I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? I don't believe in it. It was quarantine. Everyone was out of their mind. So we start getting on our way, and it happens to be inside of a neighborhood. And luckily, I knew someone in the neighborhood, so I was able to get through the gate. But it gives you a pinpoint location, right? And it's kind of hard to find it sometimes. So we think it's at this house, and then we're looking at it, and we're like, we look around at the house. We're like, I don't think this is it. So we keep going, and we realize, oh, it absolutely was that house. So we start making our way back to the house. And we get out to inspect, and, once again, I'm like, ugh, boring, this did nothing, I didn't see anything. Until I look down, and all of a sudden, there is this little bunny rabbit, dead, ripped to shreds, fresh blood dripping out of it. We were just at that house. We didn't see anything. But literally 5 seconds later, we came back to see this dead bunny, the blood... Sorry, not to be graphic. The blood was dripping down it. It was fresh. And we were just there. So whatever the fuck happened had to have happened within the 5 seconds that we drove a few feet forward and then came back. So naturally, I freaked the fuck out. We all started freaking out. I have a picture of it, but I'm just not gonna show it. I don't know. It honestly could have been a coyote. It's very normal to see dead bunnies killed from coyotes on the street. That happens often enough, but it was just so weird that we were there 5 seconds before and it wasn't there, and the second we came back it was fresh. It's just a little odd. Anyways, fuck Randonautica, that thing is creepy as hell. I choose peace.
After listening to a few encounters of people using the app Randonautica, would you be likely to use it? Does this inspire you to perhaps test to see if the app really does have some bad or dark intentions, or is it just all a coincidence, maybe preconditioned to think that something scary will happen if that's the intention that has been set? What do you think of this app? Is it really as dark as some people suspect? Next, we have some more spooky, scary encounters from users over on TikTok.
Welcome to My Haunted Home Part 1. Okay, I don't know about you guys and if you've ever had an experience where something felt off. You could feel a presence in your room or in the house, or things just weren't adding. Maybe physical objects got moved, or you heard noises or flickering of lights, or toasters popping off, or microwaves going that weren't no one touched them, or weird things happening. Maybe you even could smell something. Sometimes there's a very a lingering scent and it's not the house, it's unexplainable. Maybe you even found some weird objects that made you go, with some kind of seance happen here, or something attached to these objects. What is it? But if you had any of those experiences, you're in good company and you're not alone. I've lived in many homes in my lifetime, maybe about 15, and of the 15 I've lived in, I've had 2 homes that had very strong paranormal activity, and noticeably within the first few weeks of moving into that. I'm going to tell you about the first house. I'm going to call it the Preston's house. In the Preston's house, we had only been moved into that home for around a week. Within that week, so many weird things were happening. I had 2 young children at the time, a baby girl and a toddler. That was my son. I also had my stepdaughter who lived with us and my brother who was living with me at the time. Within the first week of us living there, simultaneously, we all had weird experiences that were happening, including my non-verbal 3-year-old son. Things were happening like I first unpacked the kitchen and I put everything in specific cupboards, and then the next morning they were all in different cupboards. And my sister, who had stayed the night to help us unpack, actually came downstairs because she thought throughout the night she could hear things being moved around in the kitchen. And when I asked everyone, no one had gone into the kitchen, no one had moved anything around. And also when we first had moved in, there was a dream catcher on the door in my brother's room. And my brother took that down because we grew up Christian and very religious Christian family. And you don't do dream catchers or things like that because that's not the Christian way necessarily. But so we took that down. That first night after taking down the dream catcher, he had sleep paralysis where he woke up in his room, but he couldn't actually move his body and he could see a figure standing at his door. These aren't even the only experiences we had. We had my son come running into the room screaming and crying, doing a monster sign and pointing to the staircase, saying that there was a monster at the stairs. Mind you, he had never done that. He buried his head in my chest and was freaking out. And when I looked over with my friend Shania, we couldn't see anything at the stairs, but he was convinced there was a monster and was trying to tell us. But remember, I was saying he was nonverbal at the time. While he was trying to then tell me, out of nowhere, it was like his feet got pulled from underneath him and he went flat on the ground and he was screaming and crying, and I picked him up and grabbed him, and that's when I knew I have to do something about this. Now remember, I grew up with a very spiritual grandparents on both sides, on both my mom's side of the family and my dad's side. My grandma, very spiritual Christian woman. My grandfather on my mom's side of the family, he South American Spanish. He used to be into black and witchcraft, but then eventually he became a Christian. But both of them are very spiritual people. I called my grandma and I'm like, Grandma, you have to come over because we have some crazy spiritual stuff happening in the house. And then that's when she agreed to come over that night, and things got even crazier. I'll upload part 2 soon and tell you all what happened once my grandma came over that night to get rid of the evil spirits in the home. Welcome to My Haunted House part 2. Okay, just to recap of part 1, paranormal activity was happening in a home that we'd only been living in for a couple of days, and my brother was living with me, my husband, and our 3 children, and my sister had been staying to help us unpack in the new house. It's day 4, day 5. So many things have happened up until this point. Things being moved around, sleep paralysis in my brother's room, my son freaking out, trying to communicate that there's a monster at the stairs, and then his feet coming out from underneath him and almost like he was dragged across the floor. And then finding a prism hanging underneath the stairs that had unusual symbols on it. Just really strange things. So it's day 4 or 5. We've now called my grandma, who's quite a spiritual person, and I've driven her to the house. She's turned up because she's here to deal with this stuff. And I've seen her deal with spiritual things in my childhood, but I've never quite experienced it like this myself. Anyways, so grandma turns up. I've picked her up because she no longer drives, and driving up to the house, and she's like, oh, I can feel it already. And I was like, oh my gosh, don't tell me this, Grandma. I'm already freaking out as it is. Anyways, we get out and we walk into the house, and she goes in here, into the garage. She went straight to the spot where the prism was hanging, and I hadn't even told her yet about the prism. I had just been telling her about my son. Hadn't even told her about the prism that was hanging under the stairs. She went straight to that spot, and the first thing she did was she started having a conversation. And she's like, it's time for you to go. You're not welcome here anymore. It's time for you to leave, and to leave them alone. In the name of Jesus, you need to go. So she's having this full-on battle conversation with something. Anyways, while she's doing that, my dad has worship, Christian music playing in the house, and he's in with Grandma. They're praying in that space. Grandma's told this thing it needs to go. There's like this rumbling, thumping sound as she's saying it, and then she comes out and she's like, we need to command. There's more than just that one here. As they're praying over the garage area, my dad, like, with his eyes closed, senses and like puts his hand up and reaches into the cracks in between two bricks and pulls out a photo that he just sensed was there. And in it, there's like faces that had been burnt off in this picture. Really unusual, really strange. It was really unusual that he even sensed that it was there, and even more unusual that it was a photo with faces being burnt off. I don't know what that means. I don't, but it was just weird timing and the fact that they had been drawn to these spots. Anyways, then it starts to get even more weird when they start to go upstairs. My grandma felt drawn to 3 other locations where really unusual things started to happen. And I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like this or what your haunted home experiences were like. But I remember the paranormal activity we had been having was like things getting moved around after we had set up the kitchen a certain way. My brother Josh having sleep paralysis and seeing a figure standing at his door that then raced into his room and was like choking him around the neck, and then he's trying to wake up, but he doesn't know if he's awake or if he's asleep, but then wakes up in his bed unable to move, like the whole thing had been happening while he was awake but kind of while he was asleep. Then on top of that, my son, there was like 3 or 4 times where he was nonverbal, trying to communicate and show us that there was a monster standing in different areas of the house, but specifically around the staircase space. And so all of these things had been happening. You could hear noises throughout the night, like sounds of doors opening or walking around when there's no one up or walking around, just like really unusual things. But just a really heavy, yucky feeling that I can't explain. And at this point, I'd lived in several homes and had never had this experience before.
Story time. Something evil followed me home from work. This happened back in 2020. I was working in this older barn-style restaurant that was a steakhouse, and I had just started my spiritual awakening. I always had spiritual gifts, and I knew that since I was a kid, and my family has always been haunted, so nothing really freaks me out, but I didn't know how to protect myself or others properly when I started using my gifts to help others. As a spiritual practitioner who helps others, I would never tell you not to use your gifts or tap into them. This story is not to scare you. It's simply to make you mindful that you do need to educate yourself before you just start tapping into abilities. We had this area in the restaurant that was in the back where we'd hold banquets that we called the barn, and back there was one of the most haunted areas in the whole restaurant. And I would have my coworkers come with me either on breaks or after work or before work, and we would be doing tarot readings, and I thought it was all hee hee ha ha cute until I realized, girl, you do not know how to protect yourself or others. You're just opening portals. So one day after I've been doing all these tarot readings, I was at home alone. Mind you, I lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. I was walking out the door to go to Walmart, and I see my neighbor, and I was like, girl, where have you been? Because it's been 3 months. I've been calling you. I didn't know if you were okay. What happened to you? Your phone's not in service. And she's like, girl, it's real personal. We're going to get into it. But I didn't know you got back together with your ex. And I was like, I didn't. What are you talking about? And she was like, no, I'm not trying to be weird, but your window was open. And I saw somebody with long black hair, and it was a woman, and she was talking to someone that was sitting on your bed. Not only had I not been in my bedroom, but my ex hadn't been back to my apartment since she moved out. So there was nobody home. I was literally home alone. So she comes over, she tells me everything that happened, why she's been away for 3 months, and then we bring together all of our spiritual stuff because both of us are pretty into the spirituals. So she brings over her sage, I got my sage, we're doing banishing rituals. I have never seen this happen before. I've saged tons and tons and tons and tons of times. There was black ash falling from the ceiling, and it looked like it was real, like it was tangible, but the second that you would go to try and like grab it to see what it would disappear like it wasn't even there. But we both saw it. It wasn't just me. We could physically see it with our own eyes. All of the candles we had lit were flickering like crazy. One of them knocked over. We were like, okay, whatever this was that followed me was very ominous, but the fact that it revealed itself to her and let her see it, I was like, oh, hell no. Obviously now I've done so much in the last 5 years to understand my abilities on a way deeper, way more mature level. I understand protection. I understand protecting myself and the client, and it's different now. But back then when I was very immature and I was just going into it like this was fun and games, no, you need to understand how to protect yourself before you start doing spiritual shit. Like, for real. Even if you have gifts, it doesn't mean you're spiritually aware. But I have a lot more stories where that came from. That's just one of them. So yeah, peace out. Insidious, the movie, may have been fictional, but that shit played out in my actual life. My family's been haunted my entire life, and anywhere we would move, it would follow, so it was never connected to the house, but rather our family. The stuff that the ghosts would do to haunt us was usually pretty innocent until it wasn't. Because at a certain point, the spirit decided it was time to trade in turning off the lights and making random things fall for attempted possession, mimics, and sleep paralysis. I guess call me Dalton because I was born with the ability to astral project, but didn't realize that was what I was doing and had no idea how to protect myself in the astral realm, and I would always get seen and things would chase me back. We lived in a 4-bedroom house, but the middle room was known for being the most haunted avenue because anyone who stayed in that room had the worst hauntings and constant sleep paralysis. Now, an important detail to note here was that we never physically saw any of the things that were trying to mess with us or haunt us until I started sleeping in that room. And when things started coming back from the astral realm, not only did I see them, but everyone in the house could see what I was seeing. And we'd test each other. We'd be like, what did you see? Without telling each other to make sure we're seeing the same entities, and we sure were. We were not making that shit up. We had been haunted for so many years, it was just our normal, but it wasn't until she came about that we decided we had to do something about this, and she was the woman with the long white nightgown and the long black hair. I'll never forget the night she chased me back from the astral realm, because as I was going back to my body, I physically saw her scream, like I saw her face in my mind scream at me, this evil curdling scream, and then I woke up and I was frozen in sleep paralysis for the first time in my life because it had never gotten me until this point. After this thing followed me back, little things would happen, like my mom would be like, I was sitting on the couch and I was watching TV, and then I was watching my own body, and I had to fight whatever was in me to give me back control over my body. Don't tell your sister, I don't want to freak her out. She really did explain that too casually, like, oh yeah, I just got possessed last night, don't tell your sister, haha, it'll scare her. Like, girl. But that's how desensitized we were from being haunted for so many years. We would mimic our dog to try and come in when we saw the dog was already in the house, and then we'd look back and it would be gone. Fun fact, that actually happened recently too, like a year ago. I know that house is still full of entities, and my mom just don't be doing the spiritual cleaning she need to do. Okay, I do it when I go over there. But after I started experiencing sleep paralysis on a more regular basis, I started saying nightly prayers to protect everybody in the house. And I remember one day I decided I would say it out loud because I thought it'd be more powerful. And the second I said God, my lights went out, my TV went staticky, and I was like, oh, this is evil, evil. I'm running out of time, so my family and I ended up doing some vanishing rituals to get rid of the energy, saging regularly, and then I suppressed my ability to astral project by actually forcing myself to sleep with the lights on and the TV blasting, so I was never fully able to fall into sleep deep enough to astral project. So all that happened when I was like 19 years old. I had a spiritual awakening around 22, and now I'm 27 and I fully have my gift back, but this time with the power of protection too.
In the city of Albany, Georgia, there's a local legend called Seven Churches Road. Now, I will not be giving y'all directions on how to get to this road because I've had my own spooky experience here, but I will at least tell you my story. Now, what brought this back to my attention is one of my classmates said, hey, I heard y'all been talking about Seven Churches Road, and I finally want to go. And I said, don't do that. For one, now that I know what I know, I would never advocate for anyone to go seeking stuff like this. And two is because when you go looking for trouble, trouble seems to find you. So this is the summer of 2010. I had just graduated that year. It's summertime. Me and my classmates, we really ain't got nothing to do, so we just be choosing somebody's house to meet up at. So this day in particular, folks met at my house and was like, hey, y'all want to try to do something fun? We can go to Seven Churches Road. Me having always been the person who dared to do the things that you should not do, I was all in. It was still daytime, early in the afternoon. So to try to convince the people who weren't in on doing this that maybe we should do this, I said, how about we go right now, see what it looks like in the daylight, and then if it looks okay, we'll come back later on tonight. So they was like, okay, that's a good idea. We'll just go right now. So we loaded up in 2 cars.
Me and my homeboy was in a car with 2 females, and my other homeboy, he drove his car, and he had a girl in his car too. Now, when we got there, the first thing that you see is just this old little rundown small church just sitting up on the left-hand side. It looks as though people may still be going there, but I'm not sure. But what I can say is it's the only church on that road that looks like somebody is keeping it clean. So then we pulled up to the second church. Now, the second church is the church where people tell you if you go into this building, there's a Bible on the altar, and if you try to pick the Bible up and carry it out of the church, it starts getting heavier. Well, we didn't get to test this theory out because someone had recently vandalized the church, and it was darn near completely burned down. Really, what was just standing there was like the walls of the church. So we walked around inside areas where we could actually walk, and we took a couple pictures. Now, I can't confirm whether or not what we had on the camera was just like dust from us walking around inside or if it was actual orbs. But it was cool to just like look at some of the graffiti on the wall and look at some of the graves outside in the cemetery. And there was a baptism pool in the yard. And the baptism pool sat towards like the front of the cemetery area. But it was like off to the side of the church, but it was in the front of the cemetery area. So once we finished up there, we drove on down the road a little bit, and we saw the other 2 churches on the road. So that's 4 churches in total. Now, I know what I said is the name of this road is 7 Churches Road. That's because the lure of this road is that at night, you will see 3 more churches appear that weren't there before. Y'all stay locked in for part. This is part 2 of my experience going to 7 Churches Road and why I do not recommend it at all. 0 stars. So like I said, the name of the road is 7 Churches Road. Now, all we saw on that road was 4 churches because once we got towards the end of the road, it started like running into some private property. So we were like, look, we ain't gonna chance it. We just gonna turn around and leave. There was nothing really interesting about the other 2 churches on the road other than they kind of look like castles. But clearly nobody has been inside of those buildings in years. At least nobody that's supposed to be in there. So we left 7 Churches Road and we all went back to my house and everybody got back in their car and we agreed that we were going to meet up later that night to go back out there. It's going to be 3 girls, 3 guys, just like before, 2 cars. That way, if something happens, this time it's at night. If something happens to one of our cars, at least maybe we'll have a chance to get in the other person's car. Because that is another one of the stories that people tell you, that something usually happens to your car when you go on 7 Churches Road. If you turn your car off, it won't be able to start. So we all reconvened later that evening back at my house. It's like 8, maybe 9 o'clock at night. But this time, my homeboy that drove his car with his girl in it, like he said, hey man, I ain't gonna be able to make it back. You know, something came up. We ain't gonna. He was scared. So it's just the 4 of us, 2 girls, 2 guys. Girls in the back seat, the guys up front. Have you ever got that feeling like where you know you finna do something that you shouldn't be doing, and you just have this feeling in the pit of your stomach like you know you shouldn't do this? Something could go wrong. You don't have no cell phone reception out there, and there's nothing you can do once you get on that road. You're literally out in the woods on a dirt road. But because I had already had so many spiritual experiences before this moment, I just suppressed it. I was like, it can't be that bad. Like the stuff that I've seen and I've dealt with face to face, it can't be that bad. So we get back out there to 7 Churches Road, and the way the road is set up, it leads from a paved road to a dirt road. And you either have to turn to stay on the paved road, or you just keep straight and it will take you down the dirt road. Now, right there at the front of the dirt road, there's these 3 dogs. There's 1 Great Dane and what I think might have been like some Shih Tzus. But they clearly seemed like they either had rabies or the mange or something like that. But they were just standing off to the side and they just looked at us as we came on the road. That right there should have been a trigger right there for us to turn around. Because all 3 of these dogs had like bloodshot red eyes. And they did not seem afraid of us at all. Now I could be reaching, but it was almost like they were there to welcome us back to 7 Churches Road. Almost like they were saying, let the fun begin. Y'all stay tuned for part 3. Alright, y'all, let's wrap this thing up with part 3. So we eventually make it onto the dirt road, and everything is all good. Everything is still normal, where it should be in place. We don't see no extra 3 churches on the road. Of course, we're still at the start, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something to be out of place, like maybe one church is missing or there's an extra church somewhere. So we get to the first church, everything's the same. The only thing that's weird is there's a light that's on that church. And like I told you, this is an old, rundown church. There should be no power coming to this church. But there is a light, a porch light on to the church. So we was like, all right, that ain't nothing scary. It's just weird. So we go on to the next church, the church that had been burned down. Now, this is the only church that we really had some information about because we got out of our cars and we walked around this church. So we pulled up to the church, and it's looking way scarier than it looked earlier. So we all made the agreement that we weren't getting out of the car this time. We were just going to keep driving down the road. Or at least that's what we thought we were going to do, because apparently it had rained and nobody knew. So the road that we had just driven down earlier that day is now just like flooded across it. So we could not drive down that road anymore because it was just covered in water. I wasn't finna risk it. Now this road is just like a one-lane road, so I had to back up from where I was back to the church so I could turn around. And I'm surrounded by woods on each side. So I backed into the yard of the church so I could turn around and go the other direction. And somebody looked over at the baptism pool and they was like, yo, it's somebody standing on that baptism pool. So we all looked over at the baptism pool, and sure enough, it looks like somebody was there, like, but they were standing on the baptism pool like that. Man, my tires were spinning in the dirt. I was trying to get out of their yard so fast. Because I know for sure that there was nothing over that baptism pool. No tree moss or no leaves or anything that could have been making that shape. It had to have been a person. So now I'm hauling tail down this dirt road. And the girls in the back seat, they screaming. My homeboy, he over in the passenger seat panicking. And I look over at him, and then I have to do like a double take, because in the tree line beside us, I see like this white face that's just going alongside the car with us in the tree line, just grinning. I didn't say anything to them because they was already freaking out enough. And I didn't need nobody trying to grab the steering wheel, and we flipped the car over. Then we stuck out here with Mr. Whiteface Ghost. So I'm still going down the road, and we eventually reached the end of the road again. And guess who's standing there waiting for us? The 3 dogs. But this time they are blocking us from leaving the road. The Great Dane is standing in the middle, and the 2 little Shih Tzus are standing off to the side. And he's standing there like he know I ain't gonna hit him. So I had to like slam on my brakes, and I'm blowing the horn. He won't move. I'm edging up towards him, revving the engine. He won't move. Eventually, I just had to like creep up to him, and I pushed him out of the way with my car until he got out of the way and I could get off the road. And just when we thought everything was all over, we had another surprise. Because another story about Seven Churches Road is that when you're leaving, you will sometimes see your same exact vehicle coming in the opposite direction, but there will be nobody driving that car. As God is my witness, my homeboy pointed up ahead and he was like, Michi, that better not be what I think it is coming our way. And in that brief moment, I'm thinking to myself, I hope it ain't what I think it is either. Now, I was driving a 2003 Royal Blue Honda Accord, and I bet y'all will never guess what car was coming in the opposite direction. Yes, children, it is what it was. A 2003 Royal Blue Honda Accord coming in the opposite direction, and all of us stopped in that moment so we could all look into this car, and there was absolutely nobody driving this car. I tried to tell myself, like, maybe we were just going a little bit too fast and it just looked like nobody was driving. The lights might have just stopped us from being able to see the person in the car. But everybody was like, nah, there was nobody in that car. So it was like we rolled back to the house during there in silence because all of us were just shocked. And neither one of us spoke about Seven Churches Road from that day forward. Now, because I'm hard-headed, I went back out there one time on my own during the daytime because there's also a grave site out there called the Addams Family Grave where some weird stuff happens. That night right there was all the confirmation I needed to let me know that all of those stories that I had been hearing were actually real. So do I recommend anybody visiting Seven Churches Road in Albany, Georgia? It's a big H no. Do not go. If something happened to you, you can't say I didn't warn you, because I did. I know I just finished telling y'all my experience of going on Seven Churches Road, and sadly, somehow y'all have found a way to make me regret telling that story because
Y'all have now said, look, we know what you said, and we know you said don't go out there, but drop the addy. We finna go out there tomorrow. We finna go out there this weekend. Why? Y'all are clearly ignoring that I'm saying y'all can't keep playing around in this spiritual stuff. Like I said, I went out there looking for something, and something found me. I think y'all really misunderstand why I was telling that story. It was not to entice you to go. It was because if you are curious, I was kind of trying to be a voice of reason because I went out there skeptical, but clearly I was proven to be wrong. That being said, what I will add is that I did some research after I posted that video, and it kind of like I kind of wish I didn't do that. Now what I found out is that, okay, y'all remember when I said we saw somebody standing on the baptism pool and it looked like they had a noose around their neck and they were hanging from a tree. Well, little did I know when I did a little bit of research that the pastor of that church that was burned down, that very church that we were at where we saw that, well, this pastor had unalived his entire congregation because he went crazy one day. So he unalived his entire congregation. And then, what do you know? He went outside and he unalived himself from a tree by doing that very same thing that we saw. So now I'm curious, like, is that who I saw standing on the baptism pool looking like they were hung? Also, another thing that gets reported that people see is a big black dog, which it was a big dark gray dog that I saw, but still though, a lot of people say that they see a big black dog on that road that will not move out of the way. Again, I didn't know about that. All I knew about was the church that has the Bible and the girl in white. So for me to go and do further research only to find out that what I saw was valid, and not just valid, but other people saw the same things too. And I didn't know anything about that until I looked it up. Also to add, yes, I did say I went back out there on my own. It was during the daytime, but that was because I saw that the Addams family grave was out there. Now, apparently the Addams family was heavy into witchcraft. Again, I should have known better, but I went out there looking for a point to prove, and it was proven. I didn't per se have an experience that time. Nothing happened. It was just creepy out there. I know you may be asking, why am I just so curious with this kind of stuff? Well, it's because my grandfather was known as the guy in this area who casted out demons. So I don't know. I guess I just always had this deep curiosity about the spiritual.
Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!